Hey everyone, welcome back to another video review. Today we're going to be looking at the Cool Monster Gemin 2 SF524 CPU cooler. Alright, and this is the CPU cooler. And as you can see, this is a low profile CPU cooler. And this means that you can use it in, well, smaller computers, smaller computer cases, like for example, home theater computers. And that means that the CPU height can't be high, and in this case, the CPU height isn't very high. And of course that will help. Now anyway, on this CPU cooler we have a 120mm fan, but you can replace this fan with a 140mm fan. This is why there are 4 holes on each corner here. And this fan has a black cable, and this black cable has a 3-pin connector. And moving on, we have 5 heat pipes, and these go to the base. This is no direct touch though, and these are nickel plated, by the way. And well, this is a base. You have a warning seal here, which we have to take off when installing the cooler. And then on the side here we have the Cooler Monster logo, and as you can see you have the base, the heatsink going up here, and this can go over your memory modules, or you can position it otherwise so that it goes over Northbridge cooler, for example. And of course you have the heat pipes coming out here. You can see that a little. So yeah, that's the cooler. And of course this cooler has a couple of specifications, and there are a few things included. And of course let's go over the specifications of the fan first. So these are the specifications. You can see the fan speed, which goes from 1300 RPM, and it can change to 900 RPM using the included silence mode adapter. And you also have good airflow of 52.6 CFM, and there's actually the noise level is quite okay. It's 22.5 decibels, and of course the decibels and the airflow goes a bit down though if you use the included adapter, which you will connect here to the connector here. But anyway, let's have a look at the things that are included. Alright, then as I mentioned before, this is the silent mode adapter to slow down the fan and make it less noisy. Then there is the bracket for AMD and Intel. You have the backplate as well, and they include some thermal paste, and there's also all the bolts and screws and little tool here to install the cooler onto your motherboard to cool your CPU. Alright, and over to the installation. So of course we need to take the CPU cooler, and the first step would be to install the brackets on either side of the cooler here. We're installing this on an Intel 1155 socket, and I'm gonna screw those brackets on now. Alright, and as you can see, the bracket is on, screwed on with the included screws. And I'm gonna check in which position I'm going to install this cooler. And I'm thinking about doing it, turn this around, this way, so that it will be covering the heatsink here. Normally I would actually suggest installing it in that manner that it actually covers the memory modules here, but as my memory modules have high heat sinks here, I cannot do that because it's going, well, it's actually hitting the heatsink of the CPU cooler. So what we have to do now is take off this seal and put some thermal paste on there, and then we have to put the CPU cooler on top of the motherboard and install the backplate. And actually this is a way of installing a backplate which I do not like. It's very annoying as I have to hold the CPU cooler on the motherboard and then install the backplate when I hold the CPU cooler in place. This is kind of the same when, of course, installing this while the motherboard is inside a case, but as I install this on top of a test bench, I'm gonna do it like this, and that makes it a little bit more difficult. But still, many people do it just like this, like I do it. I install the CPU cooler before installing this inside a case, and I kind of dislike the way that we have to do this here, the order in which the process of installation here happens is not correct. So, well, I've been having this issue with many Cooler Master coolers, with the Pulse Cooler Master coolers that I've installed. So I'm just throwing it out there so they know, and perhaps they might work on that then later. Anyway, let me continue. I'm going to put the thermal grease on here. I'm going to use the included Cooler Master thermal grease. So we just put a little dot on there, and that would be enough. It's very fluid, more than enough. I thought it wasn't going to come out as fast. Anyway, I'm going to take a little bit off of there because it's a little bit too much. Now I got to pull the seal off, and kind of figure out a way I'm going to do this. Alright, so I actually just thought about doing this a little differently. So what I'm actually doing here is holding the CPU cooler down. Well, I turn it around, then to put the motherboard on top, and now the back plate, which I'm installing the included bolts, and that would actually do the trick here. And I'm using the included tool to fasten these bolts. But still, I would like to tell Cooler Master that they should find another way for installing CPU coolers. This is actually a very good way. In theory, the entire way of installation is very easy. You know, you have to screw in just these bolts. That's very simple. But then again, as you can see, I have a very weird method of installing CPU cooler here. I would normally just like to keep the motherboard on my desk instead of having it like this. So perhaps they should look into something different there. But that would be all. Alright. And this is actually very tight to connect the fan power here correctly. Just like that. Very simple. And let's have a quick look here. Alright, and this seems like it's going to work. Alright, and now I'm going to test this, and here are the results. Alright, and as you saw, this was a pretty good cooler. The results were very average compared to other coolers that we have tested before. I have to say that it isn't the most special cooler out there, but it has its functions. Like, it's a low profile cooler. You can use this in home theater PCs. As you can see here, it is not higher than the graphics card here, so this is actually very practical for home theater PCs, as I said, or other small micro cases, for example. And well, that is one of the main functions of this cooler. I have also the option to install a larger CPU fan if you want. It's actually very silent. You have the extra included adapter to make it even more silent, so that's okay. As I said, the cooling performance is average. But I think if you even use a better, better thermal grease, you might even get even better performance out of this. The installation, though, is as you noticed, it wasn't great. I kind of complained about the installation method that Cooler Master has been using lately, and well, yeah, it's not the best kind of installation I've seen so far, but yeah. The cooler itself is a kind of a unique shape. If you're looking for a decent cooler for your home theater PC, or just a very good cooler that also cools your memory or your North Bridge or whatever, this is actually very, very good. So I would recommend buying this cooler then. If you have questions about the price, so price quality wise, I think it's okay. It's not overpriced, it's not very cheap either. The price is actually, well, you get the correct thing for the price. But anyway, I think I'm gonna have to say that this is an awesome product, and if you want a full list of pros and cons, go to our website, that is www.ccreviews.eu, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you have a question, just leave a comment here or do that on the website as well. And yeah, thanks Cooler Master for sponsoring us, and I'll see you guys in the next video.